Come bless up the place. Bless up. Turkish.
Come on, Dad. What are you saying?
Well, go on. Yes, Turkish. Literally just went live now. What are you saying?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Sorry to intrude like this. I thought, let me see what's going on. You good, yeah?
Yeah, I'm good, brother, man. I'm good, man. Have to link up soon, bro. I'm gonna come down.
Definitely. To be honest, I should have come to your event at the end of last month, but I don't know what happened, to be honest.
Yeah, it was good. Tell him, man. It was wicked, innit, Dad?
I've heard, my bro. Listen, I've heard from before anyway. I don't need this one to know you do big events. So next one I have to be there.
100%, bro. Got a VIP pass, man. It's come through, man.
Come on, love.
You ready? Laurie?
Ready? Yeah, I'm ready.
This is episode number 44, man. Some of you guys just caught, you know what I mean, a quick one with me and Turkish there. But shout out to everybody, man. This is episode number 44 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast. You know what it is. Joined by the main man, Mr. Laurie from AFTV, Mr. Controversial in the house, throwing them bombs as he does. What's going on, people, man? Laurie, what's going on?
Yeah. I'm back, man. Back in the house. Looking forward to chopping out about boxing. I guess this is going to be controversial, man. It's going to be a lot.
This is going to be a good one this week. I'm telling you, man.
There's been a lot going on in boxing, and it's not always been good for the game. But hey, we're here, man. We're here. So I'm looking forward to it.
As you guys know, man, you know how we do it every week. Myself and Laurie in the building, chopping it up, talking that real boxing talk. Those of you, we're live. Don't forget. Drop your comments, leave a like, share the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep emphasizing that as much as we can, but make sure you guys do that, man. We're bringing you that heat every week. And already we've got our boy Francisco in the house, in the building. He's put here, good morning, brothers. It's 9 a.m. where I'm at, and the caffeine from the tea is kicking in. Another tough week in boxing, but you got to keep doing your thing. Yeah, we're pushing on, bro, but it's hard. I'll tell you that.
I guess the one thing that you can say, boxing, a bit like football, a bit like Arsenal, it's the gift that keeps giving, isn't it? So even though things are not always good, but it's still plenty to talk about. So
got a lot to talk
about this show. So yeah, it's all good, man.
Got a lot to talk about today, man. Drop the comments in. We'll reply to every one of them. And yeah, man, strap up. Just get ready, man. We got a good show. But Laurie, first of all, I just want to say, I want to wish a happy birthday to Tyson Fury, who turns 33 today. Surely you're going to join me in wishing him a happy birthday, Mr. Tyson Fury, man. No?
Hell no. And I just want to qualify that by saying, listen, I don't wish bad on any man. Not that I can think of anyway, but certainly not Tyson Fury. It's just that I'm not a fan of it. So would I be extending a happy birthday to him? No. But having said that, I don't wish ill of him or anyone. So, but yeah, happy birthday on my birthday? Probably not. So,
well, Tyson Fury turns 33 today. You know, he's got that fight coming up with Deontay Wilder in October. So let's see how that goes. I'm sure his name will crop up at some point during the show. But listen, man, another.
You think he's going to turn up on the day, do you?
I don't know. I don't know if Tyson Fury, man.
Money on that. I mean, you see what's going on. I'm sure we're going to talk about it later. But if I had to bet on it, I wouldn't put no money on that guy being across the ring from Deontay Wilder on the night. I'm just keeping it 100, man. I see certain things that I don't like, and I'm hearing certain noises coming out the camp that I don't like, and I just don't trust it, man. But hey, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Got another comment here from my boy Harvey in the chat. He's put, I hope you're both well, ready for a good show. Yes, Harvey, I'm good, man. Good to have you here. I saw Harvey tweet some of his frustrations this week about boxing and everything that's been going on right now. And it's been a shit summer. Let's be real, Laurie, but it's been a shit summer in terms of big fights for boxing, man. You know, Pacquiao and Spence no longer happening. Wilder and Fury not happening in the summer now. It's been moved to the winter. Joshua Fury was supposed to happen this summer, didn't happen. You know, a lot of fights being called off. And, you know, some of it's been down to COVID. Some of it's been down to whatever other reason. But it's been a terrible few months for boxing, man. And the woes continue this week. And let me just start off, first of all, by talking about a fight that took place last weekend. We never spoke about it on the actual show. But Gabriel Maestra and Mikhail Fox, those two that had a fight. And if you want to talk about what a robbery is, like a literal robbery, you know that word is thrown around all the time now. But if you want to actually talk about what a robbery is, then watch that fight there in particular. I'm not sure if you saw it, Laurie, but I want to talk about it a bit more here because it extends to much more than just a robbery. Blatant, outright corruption from the WBA in this whole scenario. No, I won't. I'm not going to hold back on this one, man. Maestro got the decision. Should never have got the decision in that fight. One of the judges, Gloria Martinez Rizzo, scored it 117-110 for Maestro. Some unbelievable scorecard. Barely don't even know how he got 4 rounds, but he got 117-110.
Did you hear the backdrop against that score?
Yeah, I'm getting into it. I'm going to get into it. Yeah. Okay. And then further on from this now, amongst all of this, you know, everybody's shocked at this whole decision, what's happened here. And amongst all of this, it was later revealed that this judge here, Gloria Martinez Rizzo, is not only a corrupt judge that is dating or married actually to a WBA official, she's a stone cold racist, an absolute racist. And her tweets got exposed. And, you know, her tweets got exposed actually on Twitter. She's now been suspended, apparently, but it's just an absolute farce what is going on here with the WBA, who have said that they're going to launch an investigation into this. But guess who's going to be conducting that investigation, Laurie? The WBA. So, I mean, it's an absolute joke. I mean, this is the judge here, Gloria Martinez Riz. This is just one of the many tweets that she put out here. And she's just been right open about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, publicly. Calling Michelle Obama a monkey, saying that LeBron James needs to go back to the stable. And like, this is one of the judges that was appointed for this fight here from the WBA. It's an absolute disgrace. Boxing is really in the mud right now. And this here hasn't helped it at all. And it's been revealed, a few hours ago that the WBA are going to suspend Gloria Martinez. But what's the point? They're actually looking into make like an investigation, a full investigation into the fight, which is ridiculous. When you actually watch the fight, you need to overturn the decision. There's no investigation needed. It's blatant corruption what's happened here. And also, let me just highlight before I finish, Laurie, and let you talk your piece. There was a WBA official in the corner of Mason for that fight. So, I mean, this is boxing in 2021. This is how ridiculous it's getting. And really, if you didn't think it was in the mud, what more evidence do you need? Absolute joke what's going on in boxing right now, man. And this is just the first topic I'm going to talk about today. There's others as well that I need to let off my chest, but this was just absolutely ridiculous. Laurie, I'll let you talk.
Well, you know what? All I can do is pretty much reiterate everything you just said there, man. Absolutely, as Harvey says, absolutely disgusting, despicable. Any adjective you can find to describe it. I mean, you said something there that kind of triggered me a second ago when you said it's just been announced in the last few hours. So you mean to say it's taken them nearly a week to announce that they're suspending this person? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? But then the WBA has long been a very corrupt organization alongside the WBC. Those two stand out as probably the 2 worst offenders out of the main 4. Yeah, man, absolutely disgusting from start to finish. I didn't watch the whole fight. I saw highlights, but then you didn't need to because the whole of the boxing world condemned this. You know what I mean? Even Maestro himself apparently said he didn't think he'd won. So, you know what I mean? That pretty much tells you everything. And then to cap it all off, like you said, racism and sheer kind of bigotry has been exposed. How did she ever get accreditation to be a judge is what I want to know. When you've got this type of history, don't they do any checking? I mean, any employer, I mean, she's employed by the WBA, any employer these days, as soon as you take somebody on, the first thing you do is have a little look at their social media, have a look at what you're taking on. And then, you know, if it transpires that a person's got a dodgy past like that, what you do as a reputable employer, you stay as far away from that person as you possibly can. So for her to be even employed by the WBA says probably more about them than it does about her, if I'm being honest with you.
First, let me just shout out Obes. Good afternoon to him. Good to have you here, brother. Let me just say, Laurie, she's married to a WBA official, an executive. She's married to someone. So the WBA knew what they were taking on. They're not sorry about this. They're sorry they got caught.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, the whole boxing world condemned it. And it's ironic, isn't it? Because last week we were talking about robbery being one of the most overused terms in boxing nowadays. It's got to the point where every time that a decision goes the way that some people think it shouldn't have done, they start hollering out robbery. But this fight here was the actual archetypal robbery, man. You know what I mean? So I feel sorry for the fighters, man. I mean, the guy Fox there, I mean, listen, man, these guys, they sacrifice so much in terms of training, what they put their bodies through. You know what I mean? And this is how they make a living. And when you rob somebody, not only are you robbing them of a title, apparently it's for an interim title, but you're actually detracting from that person's living. You know what I mean? Because if they win fights, the more fights they win, the more likely they are to fight for titles, win titles, and obviously the money that they earn will increase commensurately. So when you do this to somebody like that, it's actually having a negative effect on their bank balance, on their ability to earn money. So it's not just the fact that they've lost the fight. And another, I was listening to Michael Fox or Mikael Fox, whatever his name is. He was talking about it, and he was saying that the WBA have reached out to him, and they're saying that, you know what I mean, they will demand a rematch. But as he quite rightly and properly articulated, that doesn't do a whole lot for him, because that L is still be on his record, right? And it's set him back. And there's no guarantee that Maestro is going to take the fight. You know what I mean? There's absolutely no guarantee that he's going to get Maestro in the ring again, because Maestro would have known that he lost that fight. He's probably thinking to himself, well, do I need that fight again? He'll probably develop an injury. He'll say he's got COVID or something, and that fight probably won't happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the whole situation, man, is just, it's in, boxing's in the cesspool right now, man. It really is.
It's really in the pits right now. And as Obe says here, imagine if the fight wasn't televised, no one would know. And you know what as well? I've seen coverage of it, but I ain't seen mainstream coverage of this. I ain't seen it. I've seen a few boxing reporters talk, but I ain't seen it like given the sort of public knowledge that it should do. And that's the problem.
Yeah, where's Gareth A. Davis? Where's Gareth A. Davis? Too busy looking at Ebony Bridges in her underwear when she's doing weigh-ins to worry about what he should be focusing on, which is stuff like this. He's supposed to be a reporter. He should be all over a story like this.
Yeah.
Be all over highlighting corruption in the sport to enhance the sport and make it a better sport for everyone concerned. Instead of that, he's fixating on Ibani Bridges' body and making up stupid fallacies about she's the new Muhammad Ali of boxing. See, this is why we need to get going. The same time you're getting rid of the WBA, the same time we should be digging a hole and throwing him in that hole as well and get rid of him. Take him along with all the others. Garbage.
Here's a question from Conrad here. He's put, so what can we as boxing fans do to change something? I mean, we could do petitions, we could talk about it like we're doing now, but how much of an effect is it really going to have? Because the WBA is still going to be a sanctioning body that's looked at as one of the big four in terms of the belts and everything else. Like, they're not going to suffer too much from this, even though they should. Like, fight, everybody has to be involved in getting rid of these sanctioning bodies, but it's not going to happen.
The fans could do a whole lot. I'll tell you what they could do quite simply, which is to boycott WBA fights, stop going to their shows, stop watching them on TV and stuff like that. But let's be honest, man, boxing is a very parochial sport, and that type of activity that I just described is very difficult to organize, isn't it? So what would probably happen is that supporters of Michael Fox would boycott the WBA for a time. Maybe a couple of fighters would, who are not affiliated to the WBA. But in reality, it's a bit like a football club, isn't it? If you're not happy at the way it's run, people say, oh, we're not going to go, we're going to rip up our season tickets. You might get a few people that do that. But the likelihood is you're not going to get wholesale reaction like that. So unfortunately, man, it's going to go on.
Even the boxing fans are not even unified. We're not unified at all. So, like, how can we all be expected to come together?
Boxing fans are a very parochial group. We've discussed it before. A lot of them are not fans of the sport per se. They're fans, or you know what I mean, or fanboys of individuals. So as long as the circumstances suit them, they'll have nothing to say, even though deep down they know it's wrong, very wrong. They will go along with it because their favorite fighter benefits from it. So it's extremely difficult.
just a terrible situation, man. And like Conrad says here, the average viewer won't even know the WBA belt is on the line for AJ Usyk, for example. It is hopeless. That's true. But, you know, look what Eddie Hearn did last week with the, or was it the week before, the regular belt. Do you know what I mean? It was quick to market that as a title fight to try and boost sales. So everybody has to be on board, but everybody won't be. As much as we will all talk about it here, no, we're not all unified in this situation, and the WBA will just overcome it. They've been caught blatantly, red-handed with corruption. Do you know what I mean? And everything else, but they'll overcome it. People not even talking about it anymore. They're talking about other things. So, you know, it's a sad situation, and boxing is really in the pits, man. It really is. It is in the gutter right now. There's no regulatory body to oversee these sort of things, to sanction like the WBA or anybody else. They could just do what they want. No one's going to really hold them to account. The only people that can is the fans, and we're not unified in that. So really, they'll just crack on. They'll say the right things. They'll say, yeah, we've suspended, you know, Gloria Martinez. We'll order a rematch. We'll do this, do that. But this will still carry on. It will still carry on because they can get away with it. And that's just the sport, unfortunately.
But you see this suspension thing, I don't get it. Let's take me and you, for example. Imagine if your employers had found out that you had something on your social media, even closely related to what Gloria, or whatever her name is, has done. You would have been summoned to your line manager's office, and he would have said to you, I'm quite sure, look, Daryl, we found this stuff. It's incriminating. We cannot have you representing our company or our business or our organization. We're going to have to let you go. That would have happened within a day or so of that type of stuff coming out. Because we know that, because we've seen many, many examples of that up and down this country and all over the world. The minute someone's Twitter or social media has been exposed along them lines, what usually happens, and it normally happens quite fast, is the person is removed from their job. You know what I mean? So the mere fact that they've taken nearly a week and it's just to announce a so-called suspension, which means that she'll just ride out the storm and then she'll be back working for the WBA in no time.
Suspended for 6 months.
I mean, she should have been thrown out the sport for that scorecard alone, let alone all the other stuff. Mm. And this is what gives me no confidence for the situation improving going forward. As I said to you last week, and I've said many times before, boxing will never significantly improve. It will only improve when there is a single overarching body in each country that has the power to get rid of people like Gloria Martinez and the Gilbert Mendozas of this world. Until that happens, we're always going to get egregious robberies, shady characters involved, dodgy dealings. Unfortunately, it's, like I said earlier, man, it's a cesspool.
Yeah. Shout out to my brother DS, man. He's put here, good evening, bro, and good evening, unks. We might have to start discussing NBA and NFL on here. Boxing is in the mud. Hey, might have to, man.
I think mud is probably an understatement. I think boxing is in that term we use that starts with S and ends with T, man. You know what I mean? Because this has been a particularly bad week for boxing. And unfortunately, I don't see it improving much.
No. Let's move on to the other news, you know, what you're talking about. That was the news that Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao is no longer happening in a couple of weeks. Like I said, capping off a terrible summer for boxing. First of all, let me just say I wish Errol Spence a speedy recovery. I have no issues at all. Let me put it on record with the pullout. I mean, he went to see different doctors. He's had the surgery on his eye, and we've spoken about how serious the eye is. It's clear Errol Spence had a retina injury. I saw a picture that he released yesterday of a patch going over his eye. It's a serious operation, man. He's talking about coming back in the ring. He'll be lucky if he can, but it's looking like that he will be. But absolutely the right decision. You know, I've got no issues over that. It's just another kick in the teeth for boxing fans if we're being purely selfish. But I will say it was good that they managed to draft in Ugas for a fight on short notice. But you're not really happy with that, are you?
Not really. Let me keep it 100, and people who watch this show regularly will probably know what I'm going to say. So forgive me if I sound like a broken record. First, I want to put on record, that I do believe, unlike some of the other pullouts recently, I do think it's legit. I do think it's authentic. And obviously, I want to place on record my sorriness for what's happened to Errol Spence, because let's be under no illusion, man. A torn retina or detached retina, it's not detached, it's a torn retina. It's a serious injury that could actually end his career. I know there's been advances in modern technology that they're able to operate and it become more successful than in previous years. But even so, man, any eye injury is very serious. We've spoken on the show before about eye injuries. We've seen what it does to fighters. So I wish him all the best in that regard. In terms of the fight itself, I have to say, man, I know I'm speaking against the grain probably, but I was not excited about this fight, man. This is not the fight I wanted to see. I wanted to see Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. I was not excited about the Pacquiao fight. And I'm also going to say something that some people may regard as controversial. I was a bit fearful of what was going to happen in this fight. I've said it to you off the record. I think that they was planning to stitch Errol Spence up. I really do. I think that the only way that Errol Spence was going to win this fight is if he knocked Pacquiao out, because I thought if it goes to points, it's already written what's going to happen. Pacquiao was going to get the decision, and off the back of that, they would start saying, oh, he's pound for pound the best. He's the greatest fighter of all time. He's better than Floyd. I think that there was a lot of agendas going on it. You only had to see the coverage, the pre-fight coverage, and so much bias towards Pacquiao, man. You know what I mean? So much. It was unbelievable. I've never seen a fight whereby the favorite was being so written off by the media. When I say media, I mean both mainstream and social media, the fans, everybody. It just seemed to be just gathering momentum to the point where you was hearing nothing coming out of Errol Spence's camp. And the only time you did hear something coming out of his camp, when apparently there was a video circulated where it seemed that he was getting the better of in sparring, which, let's be honest, man, you can't hold too much weight with these things, unless it's with the Fury thing where you're getting confirmed rumors that he was knocked out in sparring and decked, and you see pictures of him with black eye and bruises all over his face. That's fairly apparent. But there was a little video going around, which was clearly edited, of a guy rushing Errol, landing some shots, and everyone was going crazy. See, look, he's shot, he's done. I just weighed it all up, man. And I was thinking, man, this could be bad for Errol. Unless he knocks Pacquiao out, he's not going to get a decision, because the whole boxing world, it seems, was just wanting Pacquiao to win this fight. And I'm sure probably the judges would have held similar sentiments. You know what I mean? And then, okay, so that gets cancelled, which was disappointing because a lot of people are looking forward to the fight. I wasn't particularly looking forward to that. I would have watched it, no doubt, because I'm a boxing fan and it's a big fight. Was I excited for the fight? No. Then, of course, the injury happens. Errol Spence is forced to pull out. Ugas is announced as the late step in. And I'm thinking to myself, well, he's clearly not going to be prepared for Pacquiao. He's got less than 2 weeks to prepare. There's no way he's going to beat Pacquiao. And if he does, again, he's not going to get no decision. I'm just not excited about this at all. I would prefer to see Pacquiao at the game. So I'm a little bit biased there. I think that, you know, the guy's fighting once every 2 years. He's coming back. He's getting favorable decisions. And I just want to see the likes of Pacquiao move on. So in answer to your question, I'm not really feeling the Ugas fight. Again, I'll watch it. Do I think Ugas has got a chance? Again, unless he's able to knock Pacquiao out, which is extremely unlikely because Ugas is not a puncher, then he's got virtually no chance. Let's be honest. His chances of winning that fight are less than 10%. And I would also say that a couple of fights ago, Ugas fought Sean Porter. A lot of people thought that he should have got at least a draw in that fight. You saw what happened, man. He came up on the wrong end of the decision. So if you couldn't get a decision over Porter, do you really think he's going to get a decision over Pacquiao? This is all about Pacquiao. It always was. Even when he was fighting Spence, it was all about Manny proving to Floyd Mayweather and the rest of the boxing world that he's the best fighter that ever did it. That was all this was ever about. And for that reason, I was not particularly looking forward to the fight.
Let's go to the comments here. DS has put here, speedy recovery to Errol Spence. I'd be surprised if we see him in the ring again, especially at the level he was at.
Well, you know what? On that, there's a lot of people now, especially post this injury, they're saying that they think that Errol Spence could be permanently damaged, given what's happened with him with the car crash, which, let's face it, is a very serious accident. I mean, in many ways, he's fortunate to be still boxing. People are saying that he's showing obvious signs of slippage. I mean, I listened to a couple of shows in the last week where people are saying that he's slurring his words, that his cognizance is not as sharp as it once was. There's rumors coming out in the camp that he doesn't live the life. I mean, you know, before I was calling him Little Errol because, you know, I mean, his penchant for clubbing and drinking and hanging out with rappers and all that, which was causing me a lot of concern. He said that before the Danny Garcia fight, he was going to turn that around, and it seemed that he had done for that fight. I thought he looked quite good against Danny Garcia, but some people were saying that it wasn't a wholly convincing performance. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe that was why Manny Pacquiao chose to fight Errol Spence. Because let's face it, Manny Pacquiao has been sitting on his laurels now for a while. He could have had the fight with Crawford. They're in this, you know, and they're not in the same promotional style, but that fight could have been made. There was talk of it. Noticeably, he stayed far away from Terence Crawford, but he seemed more than keen to fight Errol Spence. Maybe that says it all.
Yeah.
And I hope Errol Spence makes a full recovery, and if he's able to, I'd love to see him back in the ring again. But you can't write out the possibility that we may have seen, if not the last of him, we've seen the best of him already, which would be a real shame.
Yep. James Kinsella has put here, I've lost pretty much all hope in Crawford Spence actually happening with all this nonsense politics. So I've given up on that fight. I've given up on that fight. Yeah, that's not happening. Stefan in the chat, what's going on, bro? He's put here, it's a shame that Spence pulled out, but big fights falling through for one reason or another seems the norm nowadays. We see more exhibitions than super fights. We see more exhibitions than super fights. And speaking of exhibitions, well, let's talk about your boy, Mr. David Haye. First of all, David Benavidez has pulled out of his fight with Jose Uzcategui on August the 28th. So that's another bad thing that's happened this week. And then we got the news yesterday that David Haye is looking to make a return in the ring on a Triller show, I believe it is, against his friend, right? Like, what is going on here, man?
Yeah, I thought him and this guy were supposed to be buddies.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is. Some rich guy who's got nothing better to do but try and turn himself into a professional boxer, it would appear. But listen, man. First of all, on the Benavidez, again, I do believe with Benavidez, it was genuine. I mean, there's no real reason for him to duck the scatter guy, is there? Let's be honest. I think that would have been a fairly easy fight for Benavidez. If not easy, but he would be a heavy favorite to win that fight. So I can't see why he would say he has COVID when he doesn't. Unlike Teofimo and Tyson Fury, where they were very dubious pullouts to me. This one doesn't appear to be that way. But nevertheless, it is still a pullout. The fans are being denied the fight. One thing I would say about these recent pullouts with regard to COVID, whatever happened to fighter bubbles? What's going on there? Why is boxing being so disproportionately affected? You know what I mean? It just seems like whenever there's a big fight coming on, it seems like there's an over 50% chance that one or two of the fighters are going to catch COVID. Are they not taking the right precautions? You know what I mean? What's going on? Why are they not diligently addressing the COVID?
Well, when we had restrictions in place, and I can just talk about over here, they were holding with them fight bubbles. They were actually doing it, but now the restrictions have lifted. It's obviously extended to, you know, boxing in terms of like having bubbles on fight week and stuff. Maybe you need to bring that back.
Yeah, they absolutely do need to bring that back. Because listen, boxing is not like football, is it? So if Arsenal are playing Man United and 2 or 3 players from either side catch COVID, the difference between that and boxing is that the football game will still go ahead because there's a squad full of players in which you can choose from. Yeah. But boxing, if one of the protagonists catch COVID, that's it. Yeah. Or even one of the camp members catch COVID, that's pretty much it. Yeah. So you would have thought that given that scenario, that the boxers would be more careful than most
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They need to enter a bubble, stay in that bubble, be diligent, unlike certain Conor Benn, apparently, who didn't, and then paid the price by catching COVID and having to miss his last fight. Boxers need to be more, you know what I mean, respecting of the rules and regulations, and, you know what I mean, the precautions that will stop them catching COVID, man. It was happening before, wasn't it? When they were doing fighter bubbles, they were quite successful. I didn't hear of any pullouts. All of a sudden, it seems every other week there's a boxer pulling out, either in this country or abroad with COVID. And let's be honest, man, COVID is going to be with us for the foreseeable future. So boxing's going to have to get his house in order with regards to how they handle that.
Yeah. Stefan has said here, David Haye and Joe Fournier are longtime friends. Now all of a sudden they are beefing. Absolute joke. Apparently it's going on their official record as well, which makes it even worse. Yeah, it's a joke. I saw David Haye's statement today. Do you know what he said? Came out and he was like, yeah, we were talking over dinner. Like, absolute bollocks his story was, man. Like, they said they were talking over dinner, 2 alpha males, and then one person said he'd beat me or whatever, so we decided let's do it for real. I was happy to do it behind closed doors in my gym, but, you know, there was talk about us doing it, you know, on the Triller show, so I thought, you know what, why not? And it's just so much crap, man. Honestly, I believe, yeah, that with them two, it's a money grab. They probably were talking about it over dinner, and they probably thought, yeah, let's make this quick hustle out of boxing, man. Oscar De La Hoya's coming back. All these other guys are coming back. And David Haye just fabricated this story. I don't know. This is just my opinion. I just think he's fabricated that story in his statement. And, you know, now they're going to be fighting. You know what I mean? Money grab on Triller. And the boxing fans are going to be mugs and take it, you know?
No. Well, wasn't it Floyd Mayweather a few months back? What did he say? I just robbed the bank. He literally told people what he was doing. And these fools out here still paid their money to watch it. And then they had the temerity to complain after and say, oh, it was a shit fight and this and that. Bro, the man told you in advance he's robbing the bank. And you guys went and bought it. And like I said, you had the audacity to be complaining after.
You know? It's a shame, man. It's terrible, terrible, man. And this whole...
I think it's a sad reflection on David Haye, man. I mean, he lost his last couple of fights, and now you're coming back now against a guy that used to be his mate, probably still is.
Yeah, they're still mates. They know what they're doing, man.
So I think it's pitiful, really. It reflects badly on him, man. Trust me. He probably doesn't see it because David Haye, as much as I like him as a fighter and even as a pundit and all the rest of it as a personality, he's got an ego the size of London, man. And sometimes when you've got such a big ego, it can lead you into embarrassing situations because the problem is you have no sensitivity, no real self-awareness because it's consumed by your ego. And I think this is what's happened here. He thinks this is a great idea. Oh, look how clever I am. Yeah, we sat down, we spoke about it. We're going to make some money off the back of this. I don't think he will. And I just think he looks foolish, man. I can't think. I mean, it's interesting today. We actually spoke about it in the office briefly. And as soon as I told a couple of people here, you know what they did?
What?
They, there's a big guffaws of laughter. People say, David Haye, coming back. Oh, please, what is boxing coming to? That's what I'm saying. It's embarrassing, bro. Yep. It's embarrassing. You know what I mean? And that's all I can say, really. And like I said, David Haye, man, I thought there was more about. I knew the guy's ego can cause him to do some funny style things, but I was still a fan. But this type of thing, man, you just think, come on, bro. You know what I mean? Really? What are we doing?
He ain't got to worry about carrying it on a pay-per-view because it's going to be on Triller anyway on the undercard. So it's like he ain't got to have that whole stress of carrying the show, so to speak. You know, he can make his money knowing that the Triller audience will be big over there in America. And yeah, it's just a sad reflection of where we are right now with boxing, man.
On the undercard of 2 YouTubers, is it?
No, I think it's on the undercard of Oscar De La Hoya's fight, I think. That's where we are.
And even Oscar, I saw some footage of him on the pads the other day, man. I have to say he looked awful. You know, and if that's a sign of what's going to happen with his fight with Vitor Belfort, he could lose because what I saw there, man, he looked uncoordinated. He was forcing his punches. And he looked like one of them sort of white collar guys, you know what I mean? And this is the great Oscar De La Hoya. Regardless of some of the things he's done in his personal life, which is a bit wacky, a bit weird. But as an actual fighter, man, he's got to be one of the best in recent times. And to see him, 50-odd years old, with well-documented problems of alcohol and drugs and other outside-the-ring issues that's caused a lot of embarrassment for him, I can get why he would want to keep himself fit and stay in shape and all that. But to say, and you're announcing a comeback, I just think we don't want to see it, bro. You know, I want to remember Oscar, that 1992 gold medal winner in Barcelona. And, you know, we followed his career, winning so many titles at different weights. We saw the rivalries he had with people like Floyd Mayweather and stuff. That's how I prefer to remember Oscar. Him doing this now is not going to change our impression of him as a fighter. If anything, it's going to detract from what he did. Because no one wants to see an old 50-year-old pot-bellied Oscar getting beaten on by some MMA guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if he does win the fight, so what? A lot of people are not going to really recognize it anyway. So, listen, man, if you want to do this type of stuff, why not just get in the ring behind closed doors and have a little exhibition or something like that? But to say you're coming back and...
Egos, man. Ego, that's what it is. It's an ego thing.
Man, that's what it is, because Oscar doesn't need the money. The one thing he did do was look after his money well, apparently. And he's got his promotional company, which in my view is what he should be concentrating on, because he's not really seen as running that company as well as he should do. So that's where his focus should be. And like I said, if you want to train, listen, man, I've turned 60 now, and I still go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. You know what I mean? I'll go on the bag, and, you know what I mean, for a couple of minutes, you think, yeah, man, actually, you know what? You know what I mean? I feel all right. And I've even sparred a couple of times, but come on, bro. You know what I mean? You got to keep it real. I'm not going to be shouting out other man saying, yeah, come fight me and this and that. It's totally different. I don't know why these guys can't be content with their achievements, which are considerable. Like I said, Oscar's one of the best fighters of the modern era. Nobody can deny that. No one. Yes, he got beaten up by Pacquiao, but he was a weight-drained Oscar. He was past his best. He lost. That was the key for him to retire. That's it. Boom, done. Yeah, his achievements are considerable. He's a great fighter. Nobody will ever take that away from you, Oscar. You haven't got to get back in the ring at 50 years old trying to chase that dream in it. It's gone, bro. It's gone. That's it.
Let's go to the comments here. Francisco Alator has put here, it would be terrible if we don't get Spence versus Crawford. Would that be the first time that the two best guys in their era and weight class didn't fight each other? No, absolutely not. There's been a lot. There's been a few. Riddick Bowe, Lennox Lewis.
It's become the norm. And shall I tell you something else? I can see what's going to happen in about 15 to 20 years' time. These two will probably be doing an exhibition on the undercard of some YouTuber. Say, yeah, you never saw it when they're in their prime, but they still got it, and they're going to make that fight now. Can you see that? I could see that.
Riddick Bowe, Lennox Lewis is a classic example. That's the first fight that comes to mind of two fighters that the two best guys in their weight and era should have fought each other. That was it. Riddick Bowe and Lewis at the time. I know Tyson was around. You could say Tyson and Bowe as well, actually. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's a lot of examples, man. Morales and Marquez never fought each other. We never got to see Cotto and Hatton.
There's too many to mention. In fact, I would go as far as to say the amount of times that fighters should fight each other compared to when they don't is probably the latter.
Kovalev and Stevenson.
Listen, man, we could be here all night listening. Trust me.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's actually the other way now. It's actually, if you do get two guys fighting each other in their primes, it's actually not the norm. It's actually unusual. And that's, you know, I mean, that tells you everything about the sport. Whereas with MMA, they're constantly matching. UFC, they match the best guys against each other. Yes, I know that MMA and UFC operate slightly differently because, you know, you got guys like Dana White who basically got a monopoly over the sport. But you could say he's a benevolent dictator, if you like, because at least you get the best fights. Or he does as much as he can to order those fights. And then most of the time they do happen.
A lot of comments coming in here with regards to David Haye. DS has put here, it just goes to show Haye has no respect for the sport. Conrad has put here, Haye is still in great shape physically, to be fair, unlike Oscar. Harvey said here...
I just want to take him up on that. Listen, we said the same thing with David Haye fought Tony Bellew. You saw them on the scales, and let's be honest, man, you look at David Haye and you look at Tony Bellew, and if you didn't know anything about boxing, you would have put your house on it that David Haye was going to win. He looked in fantastic condition. What happened when they fought? His body broke down.
Yeah.
He was carrying injuries into the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The unfortunate fact is the guy was finished even before he fought Tony Bellew. So for him to be coming back now, like DS says, and shout out to DS, by the way, that's my boy, he is showing disrespect to the sport because he knows he's nowhere near what he should be, and yet you're still trying to rob the bank, as Floyd says. You know what I mean? Coming up with these schemes to fight your friend to try and get your name out there again. He just can't stay out the limelight, David Haye, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have thought that with him promoting fighters and managing fighters and stuff like that, I thought that might have filled that void in his life. But these guys, man, they just cannot accept that their time has come and gone.
Mohammed has said here, boxing is not about the best fighters anymore, unfortunately. It's about who brings in the most numbers, even if you have a losing record. He's absolutely right. DS has said here, did you, man, hear John Fury calling out...
Well, people, please stop ringing in and mentioning John Fury, man. You know what I mean? You know, oh, gosh. The guy's a complete clown. Just let him live in his own world, his little hard man world. I can do this, I can do that. Yeah, just let him just carry on. Don't give him the oxygen of air, you know what I mean? Don't give him that publicity that he so badly needs, you know what I mean? We all saw what happened when he was in his fighting days, man. Go and look on YouTube of him when he was in his so-called prime, when he was a pro. And that will tell you everything you need to know about John Fury.
Yep. IB has said here, big up, guys, as always. Laurie, surely you can pull some strings and get this show in a studio rather than online. It would really increase viewers with presentation, and deservedly so.
Yeah, you know what, IB? As you say that, and this is no word of a lie, those talks are going on right now.
They are.
It's just because at the moment my son has a job and I have a job, and logistically we're quite far apart. But we are working on something. I just want to leave it like that. So watch this space. But in the meantime, keep watching the show and put it out to all your people, man. But yeah, absolutely, you make a very good point, and we are working on something.
Something's in the pipe. Something's in the pipeline, IB. Something's in the pipe. Something's in the pipeline, for real. 100%.
100%.
It will happen, definitely.
And unlike Spence Crawford, it will happen.
Francisco said here, David Haye in his prime was impressive. Good boxer, great footwork for a big man. I thought he was going to take over the heavyweight division. I picked him to beat Klitschko. Did I overrate him? And let's remember, Francisco is based over there in Mexico, so shout out to him. He said, did he overrate David Haye?
Not really. David Haye was a very good fighter, man. Very good fighter. I think David Haye has always had a problem, though, with his ego. You know what I mean? I think we first saw signs of that when he fought Carl Thompson. He totally underrated Carl Thompson. He dissed Carl Thompson in the lead up to the fight, and he got beaten quite soundly. But then, to his credit, he learnt a few lessons from that. He knuckled down. He applied himself. He really did improve after that, and he went on to be a top fighter, man. Unified the cruiserweight division, went up to heavyweight, won a version of the world title, and the guy he beat at the time, man, no one wanted to fight him. You know what I mean? The big Russian guy, 7 foot. Wasn't a great fight, but it was a great performance, if you know what I mean. So yeah, and then, you know, he made a couple of defenses. But, you know, Father Time kind of caught up with him, injuries caught up with him. And listen, he still go down as one of the better fighters in the modern era for British boxers anyway. I mean, he's are very good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unified cruiserweight champion and moves up to heavyweight and wins a version of a world title. There's not too many fighters that do that, especially from this country. He was known all over the world. He's a good-looking guy, exciting fight. Remember the fight he had with Enzo Macronelli? You know what I mean?
Great fight.
He was in some big fights.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fight with Chisora, not one of the first people to knocked Chisora out like that. Great performances.
John Ruiz. Remember when he had John Ruiz explosive again? Yeah, very good to watch, David Haye, man.
Talks well, you know what I mean? He was the full package. But unfortunately, man, Father Time catches up with all of us, including David Haye. But that's
no shame in losing to Klitschko either.
Huh?
No shame in losing to Klitschko.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, you know, he did embarrass himself a little bit with the toe stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, boxers, you know what they're like. They're notorious excuse makers. But I would say, David Haye, if you chat to most people who know about British boxing anyway, they will say that he's one of the better fighters we've produced over the last 20-odd years. I would definitely say that. To see him doing this type of stuff is poor, man. Surely he's better than that, bro. Trust me. David Haye, if you're watching this, you are better than that. I've actually met David Haye a few times as well as a stand-up guy. And I would say to him if I was in a conversation, you don't need to do this, bro. Your resume is solid. You know what I mean? Despite what people say with some of the losses you've had. I mean, you had the 2 disappointing losses to Tony Bellew. He had the embarrassment of the Klitschko thing, especially after the fight. And, you know, he's had some other indifferent performances. But overall, he's a quality fighter. Even before he got to the pros, I can remember in the amateurs when he was boxing in South London, he was banging out man for fun. And I think he won a world championship silver medal, didn't he? World amateur silver medal.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, before he turned pro. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Cuban at the time.
Yeah.
Who was an outstanding amateur at that point. So listen, man, the guy's resume is solid. He don't need to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't.
Let's move on, man, because we have got a card. We have got some cards to talk about. Let's move on, man. Let's move on from that. There've got a lot of comments coming in, by the way. Big up Raps on TV in the house. Francisco here saying the fights you mentioned that didn't happen, like Bo versus Lewis and Marquez versus Morales, were those guys number 1 and number 2 in the pound for pound rankings, like Crawford and Spence? Well, I guess a lot of people will say that you're missing out one person there. But let's not go. I guess it's all subjective, isn't it? The pound for pound ranking. So
I know heavyweights tend not to feature in pound for pound for whatever reason. But anyway, the point is made. Those are fights that should have happened that didn't happen, and it was the fans that lose out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, we did have some boxing last weekend, man, and it was actually a good show. I enjoyed it. Fight Camp Week 2, headed by Galahad against Dickens. And yeah, I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed it. And Laurie, what I'm going to do again is I'm going to bring up the card and we'll quickly go through it and we'll go through the fights and get your opinion on those fights and how it went. So let me just get the card up here. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to be honest. I never watched the first fight. I was at work and I only managed to see the second fight. So did you see the first fight here? Because I never.
No, brief highlights. I didn't watch the whole card live because I was out, so I had to watch a delayed recording or delayed broadcast. So obviously I saw the fights, but I didn't see every round of them. Okay,
then we got the female Muhammad Ali here, Ebony Bridges against Bet Connolly. Ebony Bridges got the stoppage win. I think it was in the third round. I think it was fourth round, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like it was just. It was what it was, really. I mean, I'm sure Gareth Davis loved it. Yeah, but
I'm sure.
But yeah, it's a good stoppage win for Ebony Bridges. It continues to raise her profile. At the end of the day, she's got people talking about her over here. And, she moves on. She called out Shannon Courtney in a rematch, but she didn't look that great to me anyway. I'll pick Shannon Courtney to beat her again, to be honest.
Man, Ebony Bridges, and I noticed that in the fight with Shannon Courtney, her boxing skills are not fully developed yet, let's be honest. But she's willing, she's game, she's quite tough as well. I mean, in that Shannon Courtney fight, she took some punishment and she kept coming forward. So it is what it is. She's not technically sound, I would say, you know what I mean? But, you know what I mean? She looks the part, she speaks well, and, you know what I mean? She's a good self-publicist. So it's going to be interesting. And she's tough.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, man. You look at her compared to some of the other girls in boxing, her skill set is not that great. I'm just going to leave it like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Fisher, the run for ball against Whitaker, in a stoppage, as expected, a stoppage win for Fisher there. He pretty much you know, he mowed through Whitaker. I think it was he's been stopped before, and
Yeah,
Fisher
that was a gimme fight for Fisher, isn't it? If he's anywhere near as good as what people keep telling us he's going to be, then that fight was always going to be a win for him. So he did what he had to do.
Yeah. Thought it was funny when he knocked him down, but then he did. To be fair, he did commit a foul when he hit him on the canvas. Not intentional, but you saw him. He almost like tried to help him back up, like hugged him as if to say, "I'm sorry, man," but he clearly didn't mean it. But yeah, another win on his notch. He'll move on.
That, though. I remember the great Terry Norris. He got disqualified a couple of times in his career for similar things like that. You know what I mean? People can get carried away in the heat of the moment. So yeah, no doubt his trainers and his management will be having a word with him, saying, "Listen, man, don't throw it away by over exuberance." So, but yeah, man, he looks decent. Obviously, in the coming months, he'll be stepped up, and then we'll really see what he's about. But he's a good addition to the ranks. Yeah,
I think so. Got a good story. Went to university, took up boxing. Pretty sporty person. And then all of a sudden, he fell into the sport. So, you know, he's represented by Sam Jones as well as Eddie Hearn. So, I think that
you won't have to worry about doing too much talking if you've got Sam Jones backing it, because he'll do all the talking and more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've always said as well, I mean, the university story is relevant, but I've always said there's this real sort of myth, a misnomer in boxing. It may have applied many years ago, but it certainly doesn't now. That in order to be a top fighter, you have to come from some rundown estate and be living on the poverty line, nothing to eat, and so forth, so forth. Nah, a lot of the time, especially these days with boxers, they come from decent backgrounds. They're educated to a decent standard. It's what's in you as a fighter. And you got to remember, some people are born fighters, but some people are also born competitors. So they may not be, they could be pussycats out the ring, but if you get them in a competitive environment, then that competitive environment, that competitive nature in them will come through. So you don't have to be this so-called from the streets all the time and, you know what I mean, I grew up and this and that. Yeah, I'm sure that does happen. But, you know, some of the better fighters in the world did not grow up that way. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
just wanted to put that out there.
The Savage, Babbage, defeating Mark Bennett there. The most entertaining fight for me, man. Just unbelievable. Just the swingers, literally, you know, fair play to Bennett. He earned his money in that fight, man. He took some beats. He took some lumps, in that fight. He took a bit of a beating at times, but just when the referee was about to step in and stop it, he literally threw punches back, man. Tremendous heart, Mark Bennett, man. Shout out to him. But Alan Babbage was just too much for him. He did get caught quite a few times there, Babbage did, and he did show signs of fatigue. So it lets you wonder, you know, how far can he really go? But it's going to be an enjoyable journey while it lasts.
I think you summed it up perfectly there, both with the fight, which was, you know, very entertaining fight, and this whole thing with Babbage. I mean, I've said it before, a guy like that is going to get so far and he's not going to go any further because he's limited technically, but he is tough, he is game. And, you know, I mean, let's be honest, man, he's got a story behind him. He's created this cult of personality and people enjoy watching him, including myself. But it's evident when you watch him that the first time he steps up that level, he's going to be found wanting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's so many holes, so many flaws in his game. At the moment, he's able to get away with it because of the levels he's fighting at and the fact that he's able to overpower guys, you know what I mean? Even though some of them look bigger than him, but, you know, he's physically very strong. He's very game. He hits hard. And at a certain level, he's going to look good. But if you put him in with somebody that's technically accomplished and is experienced and knows what they're doing, come on, man, Babbage is not going to get that far. But like you said, it's going to be good watching the journey. He's going to entertain.
He also proposed to his girlfriend after the fight, man. That was, and she said yes. So yeah, listen, man, fair play to Babbage, man. A very good night for him in overall.
Yeah. Last time I was going to do that, well, I think it was Nigel Benn, but that was after he lost the fight. I saw Billum Smith do something similar as well. But Babbage, being Babbage, he managed to make it look very entertaining as usual. So, yes, you know what? Credit to him, man, because, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it.
There's so many bad things, that, you know, I mean, we should kind of embrace Babbage because he brings a good vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He
It was
brings
good to see, man. And you know what made me laugh as well? It was just like he introduced his girlfriend, and he was just like, "Yeah, she's taller than me. She's not taller than me, by the way. She's only in heels." Like he had to get that out there.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? But
he's the original macho man, isn't he? But he's hard not to like, man, and he's hard not to notice. You know what I mean? He will, you know what I mean? Once you've seen him a couple of times, you'll be looking out for his next fight because you're thinking, what's he going to do next? What's he going to say next? You know what I mean? So, yeah. We got Babbage.
Chief support, man. Fabio Wardley versus Nick Webb. We spoke about this offline. I also spoke about this with a few friends of mine, DS being one of them, and Will. Shout out to Will. Don't know if he's on that. But this fight here, I thought Nick Webb started very well. You know what I mean? He was putting the pressure on Wardley. But then literally in the second half of the first round, Wardley just thought, you know what? F this, man. I'm not letting him do this to me. He just landed a barrage of punches. Nick Webb went down. And the referee ended up stopping the fight. And
I was slightly disappointed with his fight, man. I wanted to see it go some rounds. I mean, fair play to Wardley, he got the job done. Nick Webb, we said he'd come out aggressively, but I never thought he would fold as quickly as he did.
Well, here's where the debate lies, because for me, I thought at the time it was premature. I was just like, you should have given him a count. But then there were others that were saying to me, quite rightly so, that Nick Webb wasn't protesting the stoppage.
He wasn't.
Even though he looked early, he never protested it. And that tells you everything, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it's almost like he went out there because he did look in great physical condition, did he, Nick Webb? He never does. But and that's one thing about Wardley. He always comes in shape. You know what it is? Maybe Wardley's better than not you so much because you've got your own thoughts. But I thought his last fight against Molina, he looked awful. And then there was a very dubious stoppage in there as well. So I was kind of looking forward to this fight. I wanted Nick Webb to test him properly, not come out there and throw some haymakers and then fold the first time you get hit. Because let's be honest, man, it was a kind of glorified Eric Molina performance, wasn't it? In that the first time Wardley connected and, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, is the opponent fell apart. So maybe Wardley hits harder than me and you think. Well, certainly me anyway.
Yeah.
But listen, Wardley, he's another one. He's come from white collar boxing. You know what I mean? He's trying to make a name for himself in this sport. Apparently he works out very hard. He trains hard. He does a lot of sparring with Dillian and one or two other people. So we got to take him seriously. You know what I mean? I wish him all the best. But I still need to see more. You know what I mean? I'm not sure if he's the finished article yet. I can see there's some great physical elements to his game. You know what I mean? He looks very athletic. He looks strong. He clearly hits hard. But I need to see more, man, before I can I still don't really know how good he is. I don't know what his ceiling is going to be because the fights we're seeing at the moment, we're just not seeing enough of it.
Well, they were talking afterwards, you know, after they spoke to Dillian Whyte about what could be next for Wardley, and they mentioned Nathan Gorman. And I thought, you know what? I'll take that. And then Dillian Whyte was basically said, he was like, nah, Nathan Gorman won't take that. But then literally Nathan Gorman tweeted and was like, oh, I'll have some of that. So, hey, I'd love to see that fight. That's a good fight.
Yeah. I'm not so sure if Nathan Gorman, despite what he said on Twitter, would he take it? Because, I mean, what has he got to gain from Fabio Wardley? If you're Nathan Gorman, you're probably thinking, I'm going to, even though he lost, you know what I mean? Let's face it, he was comprehensively beaten by Daniel Dubois. But he's probably thinking, I want another title shot. And Wardley's got some way to go before he can start fighting for titles, I would have thought. I thought he's still another 3-4 fights off it.
He's got the English title, innit? But Nathan Gorman's already held that, innit?
Exactly, yeah. So Gorman might view it as a retrograde step to fight Wardley at this point. But then again, money talks. So if he's offered the bag, you're probably going to take it. But yeah, I'd like to see that fight because Nathan Gorman does have skills. I think the issue with Nathan Gorman is man, he looks woefully out of shape.
Maybe if Joe Joyce gives up the British and Commonwealth belt and they had Wardley fight Nathan Gorman for that, let it go to purse bids, then there you go. But it's not that simple, is it?
It's not that simple. But listen, man, I would like to see that fight.
Yeah, so would I.
You know what I mean, I'd love to see that fight because, like I said, I don't want to diss Wardley because, like I said, I see some things in his game that I do like. I like his commitment to the sport. I like his athleticism. and one or two other things that, you know what I mean, he's got good reflexes, but there's still some holes in his game. So I have to honestly say, I still really don't know how good he is and what his ceiling is until he's in there with somebody that's fighting back and putting him under pressure, and not the first time they get hit, they're looking for the soft spot on the canvas. Not to say that Nick Webb was that, you know what I mean? I'm sure Nick Webb came in there to win, but I was a little disappointed that he folded that quickly.
So was I.
You know what I mean? I've got to say that, man. That's no disrespect to Nick Webb. It's just the way it is, man. I thought he would have offered more, put it that way.
Main event, Kid Galahad versus Jazza Dickens, IBF featherweight title on the line. Kid Galahad becoming the vacant title, wasn't it, on the line? Kid Galahad winning that and looking very impressive to me, man. Just a step ahead of Jazza Dickens throughout. Really started to turn the screw
over the past couple of years, I would say Kid Galahad is one of the most improved fighters in the country. And this fight kind of went the way I thought it would do. I knew there would be some resistance from Dickens because he's improved as a fighter as well. I was looking forward to the fight. But I also have to be honest and say, man, that Galahad, after a certain point in the fight, man, it was just one-way traffic, really, wasn't it?
It really started to turn the screw later on, and you saw the damage on Jazza Dickens' face from it.
Yeah. And Kid Galahad is another one of these guys, man. He's wholly committed to the sport. Apparently, he has. It's said that he has no life outside of boxing. He even said that himself.
Yeah.
When you're up against a guy like this, man, he's going to be very dangerous because he's literally committed his whole life to the sport. He does, from what I'm hearing, he doesn't even have a girlfriend or a partner. He's just totally consumed by boxing, always in the gym. Apparently, they have to fry him out the gym.
Really?
You know, and he's paid his dues. And he had that fight with Josh Warrington, which was very close. I thought that Warrington just about nicked it, but it could have gone either way. And then with Dickens, let's face it, he was clearly the better fighter, got the stoppage. And it's going to take a really good fighter to beat Kid Galahad, man. Trust me. I mean, I know there was talk about him possibly facing up against Gary Russell Jr. I'd love to see that fight, man. But I'll tell you something, man. I would not bet against Kid Galahad in that fight, in the stages that they're at in their careers.
Yeah.
You know, I would not bet against Kid Galahad at all. In fact, I would probably have, if I was a betting man, I'd probably have a few sneaky quid on him to win. And this is coming from a man that's got mad respect for Gary Russell Jr. But like I said,
active enough.
They're at in their careers. Kid Galahad, man, you know what I mean? He'll go all night, man. And he's deceptively strong.
Yeah.
And his punching power is clearly harder than he looks. He's got that jab in your face all night. He's awkward, good footwork. Yeah, man, he's quality, man. Trust me, he's quality.
Yeah, big fan of Kid Galahad, man. Look very good. They're talking about
Sorry to interrupt, though. The only slight, because I meant to say this before, the only slight detraction I had with Kid Galahad is that, you know what I mean, he has that story from a few years back that was never fully explained properly, in my view, when he served that ban for a drugs offence.
Yep.
And there was a very dubious story he came out with that he basically he had an argument with his brother, and his brother poisoned his food, which sounds a bit melodramatic to me. And he's never really addressed that properly, has he? He never really opened up on it, always refuses to really talk about it, which I found disappointing. He's not said sorry for it or anything like that. He's basically on that, it is what it is. That was then, this is now. And that's kind of put me off him a little bit. But having said that, man, you can't deny, man, that the guy's a quality fighter. And it's no surprise to me that he won that fight and was won a version of a world title.
We're talking about him facing potentially the winner of Josh Warrington and Mauricio Lara. But listen, that's a fight. You can't even overlook that fight. No. Josh Warrington and them two just need to just get that fight in order and then see what happens after. But yeah, let's see what happens next, man. Good show overall, man. I enjoyed it. I really did, actually. I thought it was a good show. A lot of comments here, man. I doubt I'm going to be able to get through them all. But we've got people here talking about, like, Conrad saying, Babbage makes the impression of a very intelligent man. He knows exactly what he is doing. Stefan has put here, Kid Galahad was back at the gym at 7:15 a.m. Sunday morning. That's dedication. What else has people said here? Conrad has said here, Wardley, I see him having a future at heavyweight. Conrad has also put here, let's be real, aside of Galahad, those are all C-level or lower fighters. So yeah, man, a lot of comments there with regards to last week's show. Very good show. Also got a show this week, the last week of Fight Camp, isn't it? Week 3. Let me share my screen again for you, Laurie. We'll quickly talk about that show. Bear with me. Let me just get it up. Share screen.
Kid Galahad back in the gym at 7:15 in the morning. That does not surprise me, man. Not in the slightest.
This here, week 3, I have to be honest, this is the weakest out of all the I'm not saying it's a bad show. I'm not saying that, but in my personal opinion, I'm not as hyped up for this Fight Camp as I was for the others, to be fair. Maybe, well, to be fair, week 1 never had Conor Benn on it, to be fair, so I don't know. What's your thoughts on this? The main event's not a bad main event, is it? Bolotniks, he could provide.
I think sometimes with these cards sometimes it can be a bit deceptive because you look at the fights and you think, yeah, pretty much one-way traffic, all of these, nothing really stands out too much. But then on the night, there might be a couple of fights that get really competitive. So I guess we kind of have to wait and see how it plays out. But there are a couple of guys on there that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Joshua Buatsi. I like the journey he's on. I do think he can win a version of a world title. So whenever he's in a meaningful fight, I'll always watch it. Joe Cordina.
Zelfa Barrett's been added to the card as well, by the way.
Has he? Oh, good. Well, he needs a good outing, doesn't he? Because he had that fight. I don't know if it was his last fight or the fight before where he looked pretty unconvincing, didn't he?
Kiko Martinez, yeah.
So he needs to get back on the road, back in action. You know what I mean? But Joe Cordina is a very skillful fighter.
McKinson, very skillful.
Yeah, so, but he hasn't really caught fire yet. But I'll be interested to see how he goes in this fight. See if he's made the necessary adjustments to being a pro. See if he's sitting down on his punches a bit more. Because I think that's what he needs to do. He's got all the flashy skills and the footwork and everything else. But I'm not sure he's made that proper adjustment to the pros yet. I hope I'm not being too critical. That's how he just strikes me as being. McKinson, I'm looking for. He had that excellent win, didn't he, in his last fight?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Again, he's on a journey. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on there. So, yeah, listen, man, I'll watch it. But I do agree with you. It doesn't have quite the panache of the previous 2 weeks. But I'll certainly be watching it.
Do you know what I think it is? I think that, like, just having heavyweights on the show just does a lot for a show, man. I don't want to be sounding like a casual here, but, like, it does do a lot in terms of, like, entertainment and just like good fights. You know, I'm not saying that these are not good fights here, but just like let's just see. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to
heavyweight boxing. You get 2 big guys, very big guys a lot of the time. And let's face it, man, you know what I mean? You put 10-ounce gloves on these guys, wrap their hands, you know what I mean? That's some real power behind those shots. So a lot of the times in heavyweight boxing, man, it will not go the distance. You know what I mean? And just the sheer dynamics of it, even if it does go the distance, the action will be at close quarters because they're not like the lighter guys. They're not going to be moving around the ring so much. So they're basically going to stand and engage. So it just generally makes for more excitement. That's why people like heavyweights, because you're much more likely to see knockdowns and knockouts. But you know what I mean? I also like watching the lighter guys for their technique and their footwork and their movement and stuff like that, and the skill set. So, yeah, but I do agree with you. Heavyweights do make for good cards.
Yeah. Conrad has said here, Buatsi easily sells this card for me. Nathan's put here, Cash Farouk is good to watch. Jay-Z has put here, Okoli versus Babbage and Wardley. Who wins?
Well, Okoli's still a cruiserweight, so I'm not sure that Babbage fight would get made anytime soon. Although Okoli has spoken in the past of moving up to heavyweight. He knows he regularly spars heavyweights. So, yeah, maybe at some point they might fight each other. But I tend to think that the Babbage story might be coming to a conclusion before Okoli moves up, to be honest. Because, like I said, I enjoy watching Babbage. But I honestly feel, and I'm not being disrespectful to him in any way because I like the guy, I just think that once he gets stepped up a couple of levels, I think he'll be found out. Unless what we're seeing now is just him cultivating an image, and he has better boxing skills than he's showing so far. I mean, I think, doesn't he have a win over Hrgovic in the amateurs?
I know that. I don't know if he beat him.
Times. I know he's lost a couple, but I think I heard that either he beat him once or there was a very debatable fight. I'm sure he's spoken about it before, because I know he said on record that he doesn't like Hrgovic.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if you heard that.
I did hear that, yeah. And I know he called him out. Well.
Yeah, I think the rivalry dates back to their amateur days. And I think he did win one of the fights. I'll have to check that for sure.
Stefan's saying he didn't. But,
okay, yeah. But I think, you know what it is? I think he thinks that he won a couple of those fights but didn't get the decision. I think that's where the roots of that rivalry, where the enmity began, because apparently they can't stand each other. So, and I know that he's actually called out Hrgovic before after one of the fights. So,
Stefan also says here, he says that Liverpool show is quality. Hopefully a sign of things to come. Fowler versus Smith, Cheeseman versus Williamson, Conrad Metcalf, and Decore versus Sokolowski. Very good show in Liverpool there. The main event, Anthony Fowler and Liam Smith. We spoke about it last week, didn't we? It's a good show, man.
Proper lit, man. The more I think about this fight, the more I'm kind of thinking, who's going to win it? You know what I mean? Because you can make a case for either guy. You really could. Yeah. It could literally come down to who wants it most on the night. Because these are two kind of hardcore guys, especially Liam Smith, man. I've told you before about his legendary toughness. But is he showing signs, man, that he might be dipping? You know what I mean? I saw signs of deterioration in that last fight, I have to admit, when he fought Kabanov. You know what I mean? He did look a little slow and ponderous at times, was getting touched up one or two times. And then, of course, you've got Fowler, who, again, his defense is not his strong point, but he is younger, stronger, I would have thought. Good jab, decent power himself. So they match up well.
Yeah.
Obviously, Liam Smith's got the greater experience, has been in there with the better guys, you know what I mean? Much better experience, actually, which is understandable given this stage in their careers. But like I said, it's Liam Smith starting to show signs that he's not quite what he was a year or so ago. It's intriguing, man. And it's a local derby, and the two of them like to talk. And I'm sure the nearer we get to the fight, man, you know what I mean, the more fireworks are going to be kicking off. So
Ted Cheeseman and Troy Williamson is going to be that's going to be a good fight, man. Yeah, man. The card's very good. The card is very good, man. I'm looking forward to that card on the same night as Wilder Fury, if that actually happens.
Well, like I said, don't put your money on that fight. I think there's a lot more chance of this fight going here than the other one in America.
Conrad says here, we also have some great action in the US this weekend. We do. We've got Rigo versus Casemiro, as Nathan highlights. Franco Maloney 3. And we've also got Virgil Ortiz against the Mean Machine, Kavaliauskas. So we do actually have some boxing this weekend. We do. Despite all the negativity we were talking about earlier, we do have some good boxing this weekend, man. We do.
Yeah. I just wish some of these fights would get spread out a bit more. I mean, I know one's over here and one's in America, so obviously logistically, but just for the benefit of the viewer, we've got all these fights this weekend and nothing the next week. You know what I mean? So it would have been good to see it spread. But anyway, to go back to those fights, I'm looking forward to seeing what Rigo's got left. You know what I mean? I really am looking forward to that. I mean, he's in with a puncher. Although Casemiro is no spring chicken himself, I think he's in his mid-30s now, isn't he? Or early to mid-30s.
It's a lot fresher though than Rigo.
Yeah, he's a lot fresher, but you can't underestimate Rigo's boxing skills. Yes, he had that woeful night against Lomachenko, which, let's face it, he quit in that fight. He was undersized and totally overwhelmed by Lomachenko. But, you know, I mean, in essence, he's still a quality fighter. He's not going to be at the levels he was a few years ago, and he was beating the likes of Nonito Donaire and people like that. But
that whole story of how that fight fell apart. Because remember, for this fight, it was really supposed to be Donaire against Casemiro. But did you see the whole incident with his wife and you know that fight there, how it didn't happen and stuff?
No, explain to me. I did hear some bits and pieces, but you articulate it for me in your own.
Well, like I didn't see the like what happened online, but I did hear that apparently the wife of Donaire, she's representing him now and his trainer, and she trains him as well, I think.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
like, yeah. So what happened was like Donaire and Casemiro were supposed to fight.
That's right.
Rigo took step aside money. You know, he was allowing that fight to go ahead because you know it was a big fight over there in the Philippines, and you know, apparently the wife felt disrespected from Casemiro's team,
Yeah,
and she threatened to pull Donaire out of the fight. And I don't know the official reason, but Donaire actually did pull out the fight, and then it's allowed Rigo to step back in. So it's been a bit of a shambles, that whole scenario there. But yeah, apparently she felt disrespected. She felt like they weren't treating her as an equal. And she said, yeah, I'll pull this fight if I have to. And then all of a sudden the fight's not happening. So
well, you know, at the end of the day, if that is the case, I mean, I think they did say some quite derogatory things about her, you know, which is unfortunate. They're thinking that maybe because she's a woman, they think that they can disrespect her. And fair play to Nonito Donaire, man. It's not just his wife, but his trainer and manager as well. And if he thinks that she's been disrespected, then obviously he's going to have a problem with that. And he's going to show
like Stefan says here, wouldn't you want to beat him up rather than pull out? Remember what De La Hoya did with Ricardo Mayorga when Mayorga was disrespecting his wife? What did De La Hoya do? Go in the ring.
Mosley, wasn't it? That was Shane Mosley.
Yeah, Shane Mosley as well, I think.
I think that was a little different because I don't think Mayorga, from what I've seen anyway, he wasn't disrespecting her in the lead up to the fight. I think what happened in one of the press conferences, when she walked past him, he allegedly, and I say allegedly, but it looked like he did do it. He smacked her on the bum, didn't she?
Yeah.
He smacked her on the bum, and obviously she got upset about it. And but by that time, the fight was already signed and sealed. You know what I mean? So that was a little different. But I think with this fight, during the negotiations, it emerged that Casemiro and his team had said some derogatory remarks, and then obviously Donaire and his wife spoke, and they decided, you know what, we're not going to do business with him. So I can understand that in a way. Because I think he's quite an honourable guy. From what I can see from Donaire, he's quite an honourable guy with a lot of integrity, and his intellect is maybe different to someone like Casemiro's, is a bit more rugged and a bit more street, you know what I mean? And he probably thought, you know what, I don't want to have, because you know what it is as well. Sometimes guys can drag you down to a certain level where you just feel, I don't want to go there. I'm sure that's happened. It's definitely happened with me. And I'm pretty sure it may have happened with you over the years, where you come into contact with some people and you just think, you know what, I could probably crush this guy, but you know, I'd rather not go there. So I'm just going to stay out of their way. And as long as they don't touch me, then we'll just keep it moving. You know what I mean? You can just smell trouble with some people. Their energy is not good. And you think to yourself, you know what? Let me just swerve this guy, man, because it could get a bit horrible. So, you know what I mean? And maybe that's what, after he spoke, probably reasoned that, you know what, we don't really need Casemiro. We can go another direction. It's not worth all the hassle. They're just not that kind of peoples that are going to engage in that type of stuff. They just probably thought, no.
Well, either way, Rigo stepped in, and I think a few years ago I would have backed Rigo in this one, but as of now, I think Casemiro has just got too much energy, probably punches a bit too hard. I just think it's probably a bad fight for Rigo at this time, but hopefully I'm proved wrong because I'm a big fan of Rigo.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you in everything you said there, man. I think a few years ago, certainly about 5-6 years ago, man, undoubtedly Rigo would have been a favourite, a heavy favourite. No matter how hard Casemiro punched, I think you would have been favourite to win. But, you know what I mean? Even Rigo, man, Father Time waits for no one. Father Time is undefeated, as they say. And he's definitely in the twilight years of his career. I mean, there's long since been rumours that Rigo is possibly in his mid-40s. You know what I mean? I think them Cuban boxers, man, have got problems with their with their passports and their birth certificates. Sometimes the information entered onto those pieces of documentation are not always accurate, shall we say. So, you know, I mean, like I said, there's rumours that he could be quite old, to say the least. But anyway, regardless of all that, even if he is being truthful about his age, there's definitely slippage there. And if I was a betting man, again, which I'm not, I'll probably lean towards Casemiro to outwork him and get the win. But it's an intriguing fight, nevertheless.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Looking forward to that for sure. Francisco says here, how good of a barometer do you think the Mean Machine will be for Ortiz? Now, good fight, man. Good step up for Virgil Ortiz again.
It's a good question. The only thing I would say is, and I guess we will find out early into the fight, is what level of ambition is the Mean Machine bringing? Because let's face it, man, as good as he is and as good as he performed against Crawford, he is the opponent, isn't it? And when you're the opponent, sometimes your motivation is not always as it should be, if you see what I mean. So he's been brought in. This is basically the Virgil Ortiz show, isn't it? So how much motivation is the Mean Machine bringing to this fight? Does he really think he can win? Does he really think that even if he does win, it's going to lead to world title opportunities? He could be at that stage in his career now where he's been classified as the opponent and he's kind of going into that fight with that in the back of his mind. And sometimes if that happens, you will see a performance that is not of what we thought it would be. You know what I mean? So that's my only worry with this fight. But nevertheless, I am looking forward to it. Hopefully, I think this is a last opportunity to get back to that top level and we'll take it very serious.
I think personally, if he comes for it, I think he could give Ortiz some sort of trouble, man, because Ortiz, there's only one way he fights. He comes forward and he likes to throw bombs. He's very good to the body. And, he has a great selection of punches as well. The crowd are going to be behind him. But one thing that I saw in the fight with, what's his name, man? I forgot his name. The Texan. Hooker, with the fight with Hooker. Hooker's not a puncher. But when Hooker had his moments, Ortiz was a bit baffled to me. Do you know what I mean? And I think that with the Mean Machine, we saw what he can do and how strong he actually is. If he's able to, switch it up a little bit and maybe push Ortiz on the back foot, then I want to see how he responds to some sort of adversity. Do you know what I mean? Because against Hooker, there was a little bit of adversity there and Hooker was actually doing okay, but he didn't have the strength or the power to really push through. But the Mean Machine does. Do you know what I mean? Let's see what happens, man. It's a good fight.
It is. You make some good points there. I mean, I watched the fight with Ortiz and Hooker, and he did get caught a lot, Ortiz, more than I would have expected him to. He's later since blamed it on COVID. He said that he had COVID in the weeks leading up to the fight.
Hooker said that?
Ortiz said that.
Oh, right, okay.
Hooker, he had COVID in the weeks leading up to the fight, and going into the fight, he never felt as strong as he normally would. I mean, listen, he's probably telling the truth, man. Who knows? But fighters, nevertheless, are notorious with their excuses when they don't perform to expectation or they lose. So who knows? But I did notice, man, that his footwork isn't great and his defense isn't great. He can be got at if guys decide to fight back. And listen, I'm expecting Mean Machine to do that because he's a very good fighter himself and he can punch. Let's face it. He had Crawford down momentarily, although it wasn't counted, and he was giving Terence Crawford problems. And in fact, I
think that should have counted.
Yeah. And in fact, I even saw an interview with Bomac, Crawford's trainer, where he's saying he picks Mean Machine to beat Ortiz. Now, he could be just saying that because, of the trouble that Mean Machine gave Crawford. But yeah, he's convinced that Mean Machine, if he shows up, can take Ortiz out. Well, we'll see. I mean, if he was to do that, that would be sensational. That would be a major upset. But I am going for an Ortiz win. I think attacking-wise, he's excellent. As you said before, Daryl, he's got an excellent body attack. So it could be one of those scenarios where he's too young, he's too fresh, too fast, too good at this stage in their careers. But you never know, man. In boxing, man, all it takes is one punch and plans can go up in smoke. So
it's a good fight, man. It's a good fight. And shout out to Virgil Ortiz again for having another step-up fight. Do you know what I mean? This is someone I can get behind. Somebody like Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Boots Ennis, because they really believe in themselves, first of all, and they're not messing about. They're like, nah, we will take on these tough guys now. Do you know what I mean? And shout out to both of them.
Yeah, I think the narrative is that if Ortiz wins this fight, he's going to officially call out Terence Crawford. So
well, he did kind of half call him out last time, didn't he?
He half called him out last time, but what I'm reading is that if he gets the win this time and he does it impressively, he's going to be calling out Terence Crawford in the ring after the fight. So we'll see. And you know, Terence Crawford, he likes a challenge. He's not going to back down, I wouldn't have thought. So could get interesting, man.
Let's see what happens, man. You know, the future is bright in terms of some of these guys that we do have on the way up. The likes of Virgil Ortiz, the likes of Jerron Ennis, the likes of Shakur Stevenson, and so on. You know, the future is bright. Hopefully, just in terms of the business side of boxing and the politics and all the other drama, we can sort it out. We can get some of these fights happening, man, because everything's there. The ingredients are there for this sport to flourish. But as we've seen time and time again, over this week in particular, we continue to shoot ourselves in the foot. And that's just basically the sport right now, man. We love it. It's hard for us to break away from it. But, you know, we have certain times like this where it's hard to get behind it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's my closing thoughts, man. Laurie, I'll let you close out for this week.
No, listen, man, once again, thanks for the opportunity to come on board and to air my passions and my opinions and so forth. I hope people, if they don't always agree, they can, you know what I mean, see where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? They might disagree with a lot of what I say, but hopefully they will recognize that I'm speaking from the heart. I'm speaking my truths, because that's what I try and do. And yeah, man, it's a pleasure and an honor to be on. And I look forward to the next show. And in closing, I would like to say, like, share, subscribe.
It's free. It don't cost nothing, man.
It don't cost nothing, man.
Share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and big up to everybody as usual, man. We'll be back next week, and have a good weekend, people. And yeah, enjoy the fights, man. We got some good action this weekend, so enjoy it. Big up everybody once again. We're out, man. Peace out.